There's this new CNN polling out today that says quite a bit. Just 28% of Americans view the Democratic Party favorably. And the context of that is the lowest mark for Democrats in the history of CNN's polling going back to 1992. And for Democrats, they have a lot more work to do to win back favorability within their ranks, within the party, than Republicans do.
If Democrats in Congress were looking for some good news in the polling, they are going to need a microscope. A new national survey shows historic lows. Just 19% of voters say they are happy with how Democrats in Congress are doing their jobs. That is the lowest since this polling began asking the question of happiness in 2009. Karl Rove is asking in his new op-ed, can anything save the Democrats? As 2026 approaches, they are disliked, divided, and devoid of effective leaders.
So we have for you here today a prime example of how, as a wise man once said, the internet is not real life. Because if you paid attention to online chatter as of late, you would be under this perception that Donald Trump and the popular support of MAGA is completely imploding. The 2026 midterms have been lost on the front of this Epstein issue, and the Democrat Party right now is surging, right? This is their big moment of political opportunity. They're going to win 40 seats, I think I once heard someone say, over this issue. And while, certainly there are many criticisms to be had, obviously the administration has not been great in the way they've handled or messaged on this Epstein issue for sure. It turns out that, again, the internet is not real life, and when you look at the actual generic ballot polling in terms of either the Democrat Party's approval rating or Donald Trump's personal approval rating, none of those trends seem to be showing up in the actual polling, and it's a very interesting thing we'll give you our full thoughts on in today's video, because I think this is a prime example of sometimes how you have to dissect or separate the hype and the noise from what is actually happening here on the core issues that people truly vote on. And again, this is just my analysis. We're being honest here. Don't shoot the messenger. With that said, guys, do us a favor as usual. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing, guys, is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that in mind, let us just first of all start here in terms of the Democrat Party, because as of late, they've been really trying hard, going out and doing their best to show that, as the base seems to be so often demanding in their rhetoric, that they're willing to fight, right? You're seeing all these protests. You have Democrats literally getting handcuffed and arrested to stand up to ICE and all of that. And the big question here is, are any of their voters starting to finally come around to that? Are they somehow winning over the center with all of their constant boy who cried wolf hysteria when it comes to Medicaid and all these issues? And as it turns out, you'll take a listen here. Apparently, according to recent polling, we continue to see that is not the case. As a matter of fact, guys, the Democrat Party's approval rating, which has been in the basically low to high 20s the entire Trump presidency, appears to actually be slipping even further as the summer now is in full swing. Take a listen to Harry Enton and CNN's recent analysis here for yourself, and then you can also compare that side by side with how the midterms are currently looking for them, because as much as they may sit here and assume, oh, look, there's so much popular discontent, surely, this should be an easy blue wave for us. No. It's not really that simple when the opposition is as pathetic as it is. Take a listen.
The bottom line is this. Democrats are behind their 2006 and 2018 paces when it comes to the generic congressional ballot. What are we talking about here? All right, the Democrats versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot, the margins. Look at where we are now. Democrats are ahead, but by just 2 points. Look at where Democrats were already ahead by in 2017. They were behind by 7 points. How about 2005 on the generic congressional ballot? Ahead by 7 points, and now they're only ahead by 2 points. Their lead is less than half of where it was in either 2017 or 2005.
Let's be honest, we're not getting any younger, and if you want to look and feel your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements designed to help you with every health goal, whether it's boosting your energy, trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping testosterone up, or even reducing the swelling in your legs. Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use coupon code Vince at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there is zero risk in trying something new. So why wait? Head over to purehealthresearch.com and explore their 45 amazing supplements and save 35% before this deal ends with coupon code Vince. Don't miss this chance to start and spend the year feeling your best.
In July of those years, the year before the midterm election, yes, Donald Trump may be unpopular, but Democrats have not come anywhere close to sealing the deal at this particular point.
Yeah, wave looks very different.
Yes.
All right, this is the generic ballot test. This is when you test people in a generic question. Of course, the House races aren't generic. There are 435 of them. What happens when you go race by race?
What happens when you go race by race? Well, it's the same idea. Okay, House seat ratings with a GOP president, like back in 2005 and, of course, 2017. More net pickup seat chances. Well, last time around, look at that. Democrats were ahead by 33 seats. How about in 2005? Democrats were ahead by 7 seats. What's going on right now? It's actually Republicans. Actually, Republicans with more net pickup chances at plus 12, according to the Cook Political Report, when you add in the likelies, the leans, and the toss-up races. So it's not just on the generic ballot where Democrats are behind their 2017 and 2005 pace. It's actually when it comes seat by seat, you see that, at least at this particular point, Republicans actually have more net pickup opportunities. This doesn't look anything like those wave elections back in 2006 or 2018.
If it doesn't look anything like those years, what does it look like?
Okay, so what does it look like? Well, let's take a look back at the generic congressional ballot. What was going on in Ipsos in October of 2024? Democrats were ahead by 2 points. Look at where we are now. Democrats ahead by 2 points among registered voters. At this particular point, this election cycle looks a lot more like 2024 than it does than either 2018 or 2006. And so, of course, Republicans actually held onto the House back in 2024. Will it happen this time around? We'll just have to wait and see. But for anyone who's writing the Republican House's political obituaries, hold the phone. This is a reality check. Republicans are still very much in the game.
Area, and that'll be quite a reality check, I think, for a lot of Democratic voters.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right? That's a massive problem, okay? Because if the Democrats, given all this fear-mongering, hysteria, all the marching in the streets, the organization, and by the way, the built-in advantage they have, it's a midterm year, they're the non-incumbent party, they don't hold the presidency, that usually means you're kind of set up to do well. If they cannot at the very least win the House in 2026, frankly, I don't even know what to say, right? That would just be astronomically levels of embarrassing. And, not to get ahead of ourselves, because I think that at the same time, you have to ask the Republican Party, okay, are Republicans competent? Are they going to be able to effectively organize for the midterms? I mean, as you very often see, when President Trump is not on the ballot, you look at even the 2022 midterms, you look at the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, things tend to not really go the same exact way. But it is worth noting here that, by the way, what have I been saying repeatedly in every single video? The Democrats have this effect on them that is the boy who cried wolf, which is to say that their constant hysteria, their constant screaming is sort of being tuned out at this point by the American people because it is so repetitive and people are, okay, here they go again, right? Well, what you're seeing, right, in this exact generic ballot, comparing 2024 right before the election to now, is that the actual opinions, it would seem here, right, of the American populace basically remain relatively unchanged from 2024, the election back then, to now, which is essentially to say this idea that a bunch of people are regretting their vote, suddenly changing their mind. I mean, the country, it would appear, is basically just kind of sitting there, right, in the same position, which is to say what? The Democrat messaging is not working and it's not landing home on anyone because, as I keep on saying, boy who cried wolf, Trump derangement syndrome has largely kind of tired out with the American public, and a lot of people just aren't listening. They don't care. They're not even paying attention. And here is the problem for Democrats, right? Even if you manage to win the House in 2026, which I definitely would not write off. I mean, I think Given all that we know, they're probably the slim favorites, just given, midterm year. I wouldn't count on it, but still, right? That, okay, you might be able to drum up enough anti-Trump hysteria in terms of just turning out your voters versus Republicans not turning out enough in 2026. But what do you go into 2028 still sitting at this basically now apparently 19% approval rating, having very little to run on? What happens when you have like a full national presidential election? How are you going to be able to market that, to organize, to really do anything when it appears so clear here that the country is apparently not on your side? Well, of course, the recent thing they've been trying to do, hoping that they can exploit, right? There's this divide in MAGA over it, etc. And I'm not even saying that not all of it is justified, because obviously, as I've said myself, Pam Bondi definitely set herself up with this, right? This has not been handled well. But the question is not that today. The question is, how much of an impact is that really having in the real electorate of this country? And that is, of course, the issue of the Epstein files, which we've covered thus far. The Democrat attempts to exploit are, needless to say, completely disingenuous, right? You're talking about the same exact party here that for 4 years under Joe Biden did nothing to declassify the Epstein files. Now suddenly they're demanding that Trump apparently release CP and the names of witnesses. I don't even know what they think they're saying here. I mean, as I've noted, the relevant part of this to release, which by the way is not in the hands of the DOJ, it's being blocked right now by judges, would be, yes, for instance, sworn affidavits of the witnesses, things like that. But to blanketly scream here, release the Epstein files, when your political party did not release the Epstein files, obviously, for 4 years, just sounds ridiculous. And even MSNBC today confronted Representative Jamie Raskin, who has been screaming from the rooftops about this stuff. And newsflash, you start to notice that this attack line from Democrats is maybe falling apart, or actually not working the way they think, largely because, right, when you look back to their own approval rating, people understand they're completely disingenuous. But anyways, take a listen to this clip. I think it really sums up the battle happening right now.
State congressman, you could have gotten that from 21 to 25 when Democrats controlled the DOJ. Why? It was a crisis then. It's a crisis now. Why didn't Democrats call for it from 21 to 25?
So, I mean, you'd have to go back and look specifically at particular prosecutorial decisions and what was taking place in terms of the other cases. So I don't know. We could try to reconstruct that record. But the point is that Donald Trump is the one who has led the crusade to say that that Epstein, who was his very close friend, and there's all kinds of pictures of them.
He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't have an answer. Because after all, when asked with a very basic follow-up question, Democrats don't have an answer because, yes, this is a kind of cheap, opportunistic ploy for them to try to get something going. And, to their credit, I would take it too if I were them. I mean, after all, I think that this whole problem definitely was a self-inflicted error by the Department of Justice. When you hype up that stuff for a long time and then you release some stuff, you can't really deliver. You hint that there's going to be the smoking gun. There's not a smoking gun. And then there's the people, you think you're covering something up when, who knows what's really happening there, right? Obviously, right? Democrats are probably right to go after this. But the fundamental question here is it working in the way that they think it's intending? Or if you heard online chatter, maybe you would assume is happening, right? The base is tearing itself apart. We just threw the midterms. Well, in terms of Donald Trump's personal approval rating, CNN also has some interesting news in that regard to show that, once again, even it's very interesting, despite the obvious problem that this created, and it's unfortunate, at the same time, it's not actually having the deep effect that perhaps the narrative of some people are hoping or thinking or arguing. And I find that to be very interesting, but at the same time, perhaps not, because as I say once again, right, the internet is not real life, and there's a bit of a disconnect even on that front. And so this certainly for 2026 continues to be even worse news for the Democrat Party, who is certainly not really listing in a position you would think they should be in right now if, again, there is this mass uprising against Trump's cruelty, as they so often say. So here you go. Take a listen.
I mean, look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, They're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
Is there any reason that you can find that this hasn't taken hold and hurt him?
Yeah. I mean, on X, all you hear about is the Epstein files. But how about out in the real public? Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One respondent. This is a great little finding that Ariel Edwards-Levy, who of course is part of our polling unit, found. Just one single Republican said that the nation's top problem is in fact the Epstein case. Not much of a surprise that therefore Donald Trump's approval rating has not suffered with Republicans because of the Epstein case. Because the bottom line is most Americans say it's not high up on their priority list.
Still, congressional Democrats have been trying to seize on this. You hear them also parroting what you're hearing online, saying release the files, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that working for them?
No, I mean, look, here's what's so important. You know, we talk about the potential of Republicans leaving Donald Trump. They're not leaving him. But what about congressional Democrats and problems with their own base? Democrats' net approval of congressional Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University, in June of 2025, it was their second worst ever at minus 12 points. It's not low enough for you? How about we go even lower? In July of 2025, minus 13 points, their worst net approval rating for congressional Democrats among Democrats ever. Donald Trump is not the one who has problems with his political base. It is congressional Democrats are the ones who have problems with their own political base.
All right, Harry Enton giving us all the numbers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And look, I don't want to completely downplay the issue either, because I think midterm years are about turnout. And so even if it's something that affects 1% to 2% of the electorate, you do not want to have any issue that might fracture or discontent your base in a way where they may stay home. I mean, Republicans are already going with a turnout disadvantage. You don't want that to become any worse. And so, maybe there's something to be said about that. Of course, on the Epstein stuff, I don't think that the administration should just close the book and totally move on from it. I've kind of defended in the sense that I don't think it's as simple as there's this cover up where there's a client list just sitting there in the Southern District of New York and Pam Bondi's choosing not to release it. I think in some ways they screwed up because they basically they got ahead of themselves, promising something they could not deliver. But at the same time, I do think that something that could resolve some people's, nerves about this stuff, obviously not all, because there's going to be the crowd that's going to say no matter what, there's a cover up, but a new special counsel, a new investigation into the issue, right? Because I think that if the original investigation, probably a lot of that original evidence that maybe could have shown you something was likely destroyed or in other ways hidden under the Biden administration, but perhaps a new special investigation could maybe right some of those concerns or at least address them, right? Probably a press conference going deep into their findings, explaining this more. The messaging definitely could be better. I also think that, as I've been saying, as we brought up actually in our recent video on this, it's in terms of the DOJ, in terms of the FBI, there might not even be necessarily files that people are looking for there. But one thing that is interesting is the affidavits, right? The sworn affidavits, the original papers from the grand jury indictment of Jeffrey Epstein that is not actually being withheld by the administration. They're being withheld by judges because they're judicial documents and the judges don't want to release them. Perhaps a new lawsuit to open up those, could be interesting. But at the same time, right, when you look at the contrast here, the way in which the Democrat Party's base is still significantly more fractured than the Republican one, this again goes to show maybe an issue of are people online not necessarily in touch with how the American people are feeling. I think largely the midterms will be decided nonetheless by issues like the economy, immigration, crime, issues like that. Now, of course, lastly here, just showing you the contrast of apparently what the Democrat Party is dealing with. How are they coping with the fact that they are still listing now even lower at a 19% approval rating. But apparently last night, guys, U.S. Senator Mark Warner and Cory Booker stayed up till 1:45 a.m. to keep fighting against the horrible Republican spending cuts. So aren't you just so impressed by this? I'm sure if Cory Booker gives another 25-hour speech, suddenly that's going to fracture the entire Republican Party. I mean, of course, why shouldn't it, right? He's just so amazing at this. Take a listen.
You don't know this is like take 12 of this. Hours ago, I tried to get Cory Booker to talk about what it was his favorite. A man of integrity like you should not spread lies. And now we're here like it, God knows whatever. And what was the stupidest thing the Republicans said tonight on some of yours? On anything? A bipartisan bill to feed tens of thousands of children that would have, actually, for every dollar we spent as a government, we got $6 matched, expanded markets, all these positive things. They then went up and all voted against, even though they had all voted for it the last time. It's just bad government, bad precedent. Well, I had one where they said, like, if we walk away from Africa, biggest growing population, critical minerals, they said it won't really do any of that. Yeah. Even though they're going to cut off all the aid. No, they are literally surrendering a continent that will be 1 out of every 4 human beings on the world will be from. That's similar to 25% of the whole world population. Math is never Corey's. Ouch. Listen, the reality is that the vacuum we're creating is being filled by China. Amen. Yeah. This is national security, not just doing the right thing. Yeah. Right, but we all. Yes, it's late at night. This is loopy late at night. Yeah, we got to keep fighting. Yes, and are we allowed to take videos? I hope not. I hope you're doing something. Luckily.
Isn't Cory Booker just such a relatable and funny guy? This, of course, is following in a trend of Democrat tactics you've been seeing, where they think if they put up some absolute robot like Chuck Schumer or Cory Booker or any of these weirdos, but if you put a smartphone right here and you have them, even some of them get the TikTok mic. You ever seen that? They get that little lavalier mic and they're speaking like this, the way like the kids do on TikTok. Like, hey, we're here to talk about the Republicans. Somehow that is going to work. Of course, you've heard Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, many of these other people saying, oh, look, if we cuss more, if we say the big BS bill, if we say F word a lot, then suddenly people are going to find us so relatable. And newsflash, 2-3 months now into those tactics, the approval rating is only dipping. Why is that? Well, contrary to what they think, they're not suddenly coming off as the cool, hip swagger party of maybe Obama 2008. No, literally what this is do you remember when you were in, say, high school, for instance, and you had that one teacher who tried to be relatable to the kids? I don't know, maybe they came out, they were doing like a rap song about history or something, or they dressed up in some costume to be funny, whatever. And all the kids in the class were like, oh, no, Mr. Johnson, what is he doing, right? Like, people are laughing at it. It's kind of hysterical, but it's not something where, like, they think that's cool. No, it's cringe, right? Maybe it's meant to be. But understand, right? This is not a tactic that is working as the party for the party. And especially if you're going to put Cory Booker there, one of the weirdest, most off-putting people, frankly, like ever. I'm not sure this is going so well, but I don't know. Good luck in the midterms, guys, Democrats, because you're going to need it. But I'm sure you can send out Obama again. That definitely has worked in the past, 10 elections where you've tried that. Sure. All right, with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new. Check out our friends at Pure Health, and until next time, God bless and peace.